Well, I faced a trifecta of divorce, bankruptcy, and foreclosure.
Oh my gosh.
So he really buried me alive financially. My daughter, when I told her that about what, not everything, but I gave her kind of an overview like, this is rough and all these things have happened. She just looked at me and she goes, huh, I thought you were smart. Emotions can feel like they're murdering you. They can literally feel like you're going to die. Felt very ashamed, embarrassed.
Hello, everybody. We are so excited today. We have a special guest, Robin, with us today, and Robin is going to share some amazing nuggets of wisdom with all of us. Welcome, Robin. Please introduce yourself to my audience.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm a communication coach and trainer with the Speech Improvement Company. And in addition to that, during COVID, I wrote a book called Outwitting the Manipulator to help people with what is the most painful point of all communication manipulation.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. So, you and I have spoken before, and you faced a dark night of the soul in 2011, all tied to being married to a manipulator. Um,
Yeah.
what, what do you think was the core limiting belief about yourself that this experience forced you to confront? And can you talk a little bit about the experience first?
The core limiting belief, well, it's a painful one, but I know it's probably I'm not alone, and that is that I'm only of worth through my own acts of service. So all of my self-worth, and I was raised by a manipulator as well as married one. So
Mm,
I say I married my mother because he was just in a different, you know,
form.
flesh suit.
Yeah.
Yes. So realizing that my whole life, I always thought that I could only be liked, loved, hired, respected, communicated with as long as I was providing value to that person.
Mm,
So, yeah.
yeah. And that's pretty common, like you said. A lot of
Yeah.
people struggle with that self-worth issue.
Yeah.
And if you were raised by one as well, I mean, that's got to have taken a hit on you early in life.
Yeah. Very hard to dissect that.
Yeah.
Yes, when
Yeah.
you're raised by one. But
Wow.
dissecting it is very helpful.
Yeah. I always say it's the inner work, and, nobody wants to do it because it's painful, but once you do it, it's so liberating. Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me about this dark night of the soul. What is happening in your life at this point where you're,
Well, I faced a trifecta of divorce, bankruptcy, and foreclosure.
oh my gosh.
So he really buried me alive financially
Mm,
and really planned on I think it was part of his plan all along, is all I can gather, because he did. We won't go into the details on that. Everybody who's been through this knows there's a lot of bad things that would make a great Netflix movie, but the realization, so there it's I kind of swallowed up into myself of felt very ashamed, embarrassed. I had owned the real estate company with him in town, and I was prominent figure in my town and well known by everybody and appeared as very successful, not not knowing. I knew he was up to no good financially, but I didn't really know the full extent of it till he pulled the ripcord and jumped from the plane, and I was left trying to fly the plane, you
oh my
know?
gosh. I
So
can't even
yeah.
imagine. Wow. That
So,
sounds brutal.
yeah, so when that happens, and I think it's probably the emotional equivalent to people whose homes get swept away in a flood, or, burnt down to the ground. And I think it's basically the universe's way of saying, we can't really fix and renovate this. But this is a total tear down. And in
Wow.
fact, the ground is, we can't even build on this ground. We need some reinforcements. Like,
Wow.
so,
Did you not
yeah.
see it coming?
I think for the decade before it happened, I saw it coming. Yes. I had a therapist tell me that it was a house of cards, but
Mm,
I thought I was smart enough to disentangle it. And so I spent a decade trying to figure out, finesse a way to disentangle it. And it just, was getting harder and harder and harder because I didn't know he had complete control over the money. He signed my name to open businesses and accounts in my name. I didn't know I was trying to get my handle on all that was done so that I could undo it. And then I just finally said, well, let the chips fall where they may and jumped.
Yeah. So you were
So,
almost blindsided in many ways, it sounds like.
oh, big time. And
Wow.
and very, very much feeling like a victim, feeling sorry for myself, also feeling ashamed, embarrassed, humiliated. I even had my oldest was 17, my daughter, when I told her that about what, not everything, but I gave her kind of an overview, like this is rough and all these things have happened. She just looked at me and she goes, huh, I thought you were smart.
How old was she at the time?
17.
Oh my
Teenage
gosh.
girls are
Yeah.
rough. They're
Yeah.
rough.
They can tell you.
They don't mess
Yeah,
around.
they don't mess
And
around.
it was like a knife through my heart. And that was my worst fear is like all these people thought I was smart. I thought I was smart.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like, how
you
could I
were
get to
just
that?
yeah, he was just more manipulative than you gave him credit for, maybe, right?
He was much more manipulative than I realized. He was incredibly charismatic. And I literally, it was, it was the love bombing, the romantic wild ride. It was head over heels. They make themselves appear in the beginning like the answer to everything. And
Mm,
it wasn't all bad. I mean, I wouldn't have been with him for that long if it was all
mm,
bad, of course. A lot of
mm.
fun vacations, a lot of good times, but a lot of
Yeah.
red flags that I didn't look at. So really rough, really rough. When you start realizing everything is gone, that it's very public.
Mm,
And it's your identity, right? And this is what I think people have the most trouble with is when they identify in a certain way and they grow roots into that identity and that identity is ripped from them.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah, it's really what some people just kill themselves
Yeah.
over. And logically, I was thinking that's a possibility because I have a life insurance policy. Maybe my kids will be better off. I'm thinking of all the ways out of this mess. But then I realized the things that the dark night of the soul that I had was I thought, what do I really like about myself? What do I really value about myself?
Mm,
And there were so many things, my creativity that he appropriated and exploited, and made money with, because he was always
wow.
asking, what are some of your ideas? My creativity is like my creative problem solving, my business skills, my communication skills. And I thought, that's not going away. Maybe the money's going away, maybe the status is going away, the business and the house, but that's going wherever I go.
Mm.
And then I had hope.
Yeah. So would you say like, I talk about on this podcast the inner critic who is I call her the evil inner witch, and then we have the inner warrior who is your cheerleader. Would you say like in that moment when you're kind of feeling like completely exposed and feeling the shame and all of those feelings that you feel when you're taken advantage of and kind of thrown out in the public eye, was that your first thought, or your first warrior thought? What was it? Like, is that the hope and or seeing something in yourself?
Well, I remembered, okay, so being raised by a manipulator, her favorite manipulative tactic, particularly when I got very difficult for her to control, my teenage years, her tactic was public humiliation. So I say try because I didn't allow her to succeed. So this was an epiphany at 13 years old. She tried to publicly humiliate me. There was a school dance going on. So all my friends were there. And she came into the dance and made a huge scene, like screamed at the principal because she didn't like that the lights were off. That it was too dark in the dancing. But all my friends knew, is that your mom? Is that your mom? And she's screaming like a banshee. And I remember feeling this wave of embarrassment come over me, like just liquefying my insides. And I thought, nope, nope, I'm not doing this. Yep, that's my mother, but it has nothing to do with me. And it was like a split in my mind. I
Wow.
don't know if it's a divine intervention or a lightning bolt or an awakening or whatever you want to call it. I went, this is not going to kill me. I am
Mm,
not going to let her. do
Yeah.
this to me anymore. And from that point on, I decided that embarrassment was a choice and that I wasn't going to choose embarrassment.
Wow. I
And
love
then I
how,
remembered that when this whole thing was going to come very public, I thought, nope, I'm going to hold my head high and I am not going to cower and
mm,
apologize and flounder. I'm not, because I'd already done it before, so I had practice.
yeah. And it's so interesting to me when I hear these stories over and over. And what becomes clear to me is we do not learn from pleasure, right? We learn from pain,
Absolutely.
right?
It's such a gift, and you don't think it when you're in it. Oh
No.
boy, you don't think it when you're in it.
No, but look at how clearly that split happened for you when you were in that moment of pain, right? It just showed up and it was like, okay, I am choosing not to let this take over me, right?
Yeah.
I am making that choice and I'm realizing that it's a choice. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have to be pushed into that corner to then have this epiphany of, I am good enough, I am worthy, I am going to survive, but it
Yeah.
comes in different ways for everybody, right? And yet
Yeah.
we do our best to hide from pain.
Yeah.
And I just see it in every single person that I interview, and I feel like, what, how can we learn to embrace pain?
I think in the moment, if possible, what I don't think I know from experience, emotions can feel like they're murdering you. They can literally feel like you're going to die. So if anybody out there has ever had such emotional pain where you literally can't breathe, choking sobs, you can't talk, you can't breathe, and you just feel that heaving in your chest and you feel the pains in your gut and your knees are weak and you can't stand up and you really, really, in that moment, it feels like I'm going to die from these emotions. This pain is so great, it's going to kill me, but it's never going to kill you. I mean, I guess unless you pre-existing conditions, but let's just
Right.
say,
For the most part,
because people
yeah.
can die from
Yeah.
massive heart attack.
Yeah.
But even in that moment, you can hit the pause button and say, "This too shall pass," which I
Yeah.
was raised with no religion at all, but I love that phrase. This too shall pass emotion. And then we have all the cheesy sayings, right? It's emotion because it's motion. It's meant to move through.
Yeah.
And it's when you move through that you get the gifts upon
Yeah.
reflection.
And sometimes we don't get it the first time, right? We don't fully
Well,
learn the lesson and then the
usually,
lesson comes
yeah,
back, right? And it seems like,
I'm afraid so.
yeah. And this happens with a lot of people where I see that repeated pattern, especially when I'm doing energy readings, and that just comes up over and over and over. And I'm like, oh, look, in that situation, this is what happened. In this situation, this is what happened. The
Yes.
lesson is the same.
I
Would
love listening to past life regressions.
you?
And when you listen to those and you find out, oh my gosh, they've been doing this for hundreds of years. Get the lesson, you know? I even said that when I went through this. I said, okay, please don't let me repeat this in my next lifetime. Please.
Yeah.
I'm getting the lesson. I'm responsible. I'm
Mm.
responsible for my compliance with the manipulation. Where did I comply? Where did I sell myself out?
Mm. So when did this realization come about for you? Because clearly, after your mom, you attracted a spouse that was also manipulating, right?
Yeah, so not then.
Not then. Yeah. And do you think though that you were closer to the lesson with him? Because I mean, you did have some experience with manipulation, right? And you
Yeah,
had some shields that you had built.
yes.
Your inner warrior that were like, okay, we're not letting this happen, we're not letting that happen. But then there were still some other ways that he got you.
Well, I had blind spots because
Mm.
with my mother it was every manipulator uses different tools, different skills, and things like that. With my mother, she was so jealous of me. So anything that I did well at, she would undermine or minimize. With him, he was my biggest cheerleader. He was like cheering me on. So I sucked that up like
Yeah,
I was
because
a
low
parched woman
self-worth.
in a cup of
Yeah,
water. Yeah. I was
yeah,
like, give me more, give me more. But that was just the rope used to tie me up with.
yeah, because
And
on
I
the
was
one,
perfectly positioned to
yeah,
meet that. Yeah.
yeah, because your self-worth is low and the words of affirmation is the love language that feeds into that and just makes you feel good about yourself. And if he was
Yep.
doing that for you, then no wonder it felt good. And, it's like, yes, give me more of this, right? But that
Yeah.
stops at some point, right?
Yes, it does stop. Stops pretty early too. I mean, not too long, like little hints of it in the first couple years. And then because yeah, when the control, the tendrils of control, it's all about control with manipulation. And I was born on the defiant end of personalities. And I really, really cherish that. I think that's what enabled me to survive my mother. And because it's really hard when it's your mother to
Yeah.
survive manipulation. So, looking for other people to validate my reality really worked for me as a child and built strength to become more and more defiant. Well, but defiance, when that defiance grows and grows and grows, it can hurt relationships as well. So now I'm in a late age, so I've learned to control it. But I really value the defiance because the defiance is what gave me the courage, the tenacity to question things. And really in the end, when he jumped out. I was still trying to untangle things before he jumped, but he did it because I was interrogating him on the daily. I
Mm,
was ruthless. And usually in the past, he would give me an answer that was palatable and make me feel okay about something when I panicked, and I would go away. But now I started to connect the dots and notice the inconsistencies, and I wouldn't give up.
mm,
So he couldn't take the heat because, of course, people who are manipulators, they don't want to be held accountable for anything.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So you are now on your own. You are starting to see the patterns between, your mom and your husband. And it's, what do you think is, a common struggle people face when they're dealing with manipulation? You talked about compliance with manipulation. Can you
And
talk about that and how people can break free of that?
yeah, that is the absolute biggest thing. So I think people generally have good intuition and a spidey sense. And what happens when manipulation, and we coach people about how to identify manipulation in real time when it's happening.
Mm,
So what typically happens is you get a feeling, right? You just get a whisper of a feeling of like this, no, that doesn't, but he's being so convincing or she's being so, insistent or but you're like, something's not right. Something's not right. I think there's a great podcast called that. No, it's called Something Was Wrong. I listened to the whole
uh,
series. Something's not right. Something's not adding up. But you take it and you go along with it anyway. That's being compliant. And what keeps people from doing that, in my experience, is they'll say, I don't like confrontation. I just don't want to have
mm,
any confrontation. So they perceive confrontation is bad and we shouldn't have confrontation. And that's absolutely wrong. Confrontation is a valuable tool. But what I try to do when I coach people is say, let's not even use the word confrontation. Yet, let's instead say not compliant. It,
mm.
that's a little softer, and that looks like, hmm, I'll take that into consideration and think about it, but I'm not committing right now.
I love that.
It's having a back pocket phrase that you pull out that signals to the manipulators that you're not rolling over.
Yeah.
They look for soft targets, and their soft targets are people who are genuine,
Mm,
authentic,
mm,
open,
hmm.
trusting,
Empathetic.
nice,
Hmm.
empathetic. They identify as a nice person,
Yeah.
and that is where they play.
Yeah.
So if you are any of or all of those above, you are vulnerable.
And it seems like, I coach, when I coach people, I say this a lot, is it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
if you are confrontational, like you were saying, then it can create a battle. But if you are, have these phrases in your back pocket that you can use, then it's so much easier to diffuse the situation, right?
Yes. And I don't even think it's not even diffusing because it hasn't escalated yet, and it will escalate with your noncompliance.
Mm.
It's more about thwarting the manipulation.
Mm.
But
Okay.
what happens is you also have to be prepared there will be backlash. And the
Yeah.
backlash is what makes people go running back to compliance.
Yeah.
Oh no, now
Easier.
he's like, he wants you to, I don't know, let's just say the boyfriend girlfriend situation. He really wants you to look hot to show you off to his friends at the party.
Mm.
And so he wants you to wear a really short mini skirt or something, and he wants you to wear this lipstick or whatever. And you don't really want to, so you resist, and then you put your jeans on at the last minute. And you say, I just don't want to wear my jeans. He
Mm.
then publicly humiliates you in front of his friends at the party and go, well, somebody prefers to look like a middle-aged frumpy lady instead of a hot 20-year-old or whatever. He just makes a joke. Oh, it was a joke. And then he'll tell you you're too sensitive if you
Mm.
react. So that is the backlash. So that they train you when they've been in a relationship with you, and it could be a work relationship, it could be a boss, it could be a coworker. I'm
Yeah.
dealing with a professional situation right now where it's a person who's at the same level who's manipulating another one.
Yeah.
But this is how it rolls, so that in your mind, this is gonna, if I don't do what he says, there'll be a price to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just easier. I'll just put the mini skirt on. It's just easier.
Yeah. It is easier, right? It's
And
easier
it makes
than,
them happy. Oh no,
yeah.
it's not easier. It's much
Well,
harder.
it's easier in the moment.
That's right.
It's
Ding, ding,
easier
ding.
in the
That's right.
moment. Yeah.
That's right. But that's a
But
mindset thing. Because if you think it's easier, you're always going to do it. But you have to
yeah.
remember, it
Yeah.
might be easier in the moment, but it's
Yeah.
way harder because you're rewarding a behavior, a
Yeah.
controlling behavior. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally see it. And it's almost like you want to fight the battle, but you're so beaten down by all the manipulation that you almost don't even have the strength in you to hold the battle long enough to win it, right? And there is a shift that needs to happen inside. I call it like the conflict between the inner world and the outer world. Because on the outside, you may put together this whole facade that works for you, but are you at peace inside? Or is there resentment building up inside? Because that's to me is the clue that, okay, something needs to shift because, yeah, you're putting up this mask and saying, yeah, I'll do whatever you want just to keep the peace. But on the inside, you're fuming, right? And you have resentment and
Okay,
anger.
so that's it. Ding, ding, ding. So this is the cost of compliance, which I need people to understand. The cost is the sacrifice of yourself, the erosion of yourself. So you say resentment and anger, and yes, that's true, but it's even bigger than that.
Mm,
You start realizing that you cannot rely on you. You cannot trust you. And it's not about battle, it's about a boundary. It's
mm,
about it's about what are you willing to tolerate? I have a worksheet called What Are You Willing to Tolerate? Because you need a personal policy. Are you willing to tolerate someone lying to you? Yes or
yeah,
no? You have to answer yes or no. And if the answer is no, then what is the consequence if someone lies to you? Do they get a second chance, a third chance, a 16th chance?
yeah.
Well,
This is the reality, though.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
reality. A lot of
yeah.
people don't want to live in reality, though.
They don't. Yeah. Because again, it's, the pain is there, but it's familiar, as long
Yeah.
as, you kind of oscillate between, okay, this is familiar, let me stay here to, all right, let me try to fight this. And then, the fight is always
But
harder.
that's the cost, like what you and I were just talking about, that's the cost. But what they
Yeah.
also need to realize is what's the prize.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every time you hold your ground verbally in communication and don't allow yourself to be manipulated, you don't comply, you're building and strengthening your own personal power, and it gets easier and easier and easier. And a lot of people don't realize it's not that it's ever going to be easy. It's never going to be easy. It's like going to Pilates is never going to be easy. Okay. I've been going for years. It's not easy. It's
No.
never going to be easy. But you become more adept
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
become more confident. And more importantly, your energy shifts to the point that you aren't a target anymore. You're not an easy target. You're not a soft
Yeah.
target. They don't
Yeah.
want to deal with you. You're too much work.
True. Yeah. It's a muscle. You got to keep building it, keep building it. So
Yeah.
one of the tools that you have for this is word choice, right? And
Oh,
so
huge. Yes.
let's talk about that. How can somebody identify their own word choices and reframe them to shift their mindset from compliant to powerful?
So you have to be listening to yourself. I want to say yes, actively, but in very intentionally, and notice where you have tentative language. So we talked about it's the words and then the way you say them. So tentative language where you're constantly couching it like, I think we should. No, we absolutely need to. That's more declarative. Then there's that up talk, which is a delivery thing where you go up like a question at the end,
Mm.
which shows uncertainty. There's the pausing, too many ums, uhs, vocalized pauses shows
Yeah.
hesitancy, uncertainty. This never works in protecting yourself. It definitely signals to the manipulator that they can manipulate you because
Yeah.
it's a big tell.
Yeah, I remember many years ago, I was dealing with a very difficult person. And one of the things that I would do is I would go to the bathroom and stand in front of the mirror and I would rehearse what I had to say because I
That's
knew that
great.
the comeback would be so difficult for me to handle that I would practice all the scenarios in the mirror and
That's great.
yeah, let's just keep at it until I had like five different ways of saying the same thing. And then I would come back. And if the first one didn't hit, I would try it the second way and the third way and the fourth way and the fifth way until it finally got through. And I was like, okay, now you get what I'm trying to explain to you for the past 2 hours.
That's perfect because not only were you practicing your verbal delivery, you were practicing your nonverbal delivery in the mirror
Yeah.
because you can betray your words with your facial expressions.
Yeah. And I think it's so powerful what you said about like you almost can't trust yourself, right? So you need help. You need help. And it's so
Yes.
great that there are people like you out there helping
Yes.
people who need that because you
Yes.
need in my work, I say like, I'll be your warrior until you can be your own warrior. Right.
Absolutely.
Um,
Nothing brings me more
yeah.
joy than knowing I'm strengthening somebody from the inside out
Yeah.
because they can never unknow it. It takes them the rest of their lives and it trickles down if they, produce children and grandchildren. It will trickle down their family branch. And
Yeah.
it's I don't need any credit. I don't, I just know I can tell visibly with the person when the shift happens,
Yeah. It
when
is
they're no
the
longer on their back heel.
it's the most powerful thing in a coaching practice, right? To see that transformation in your client.
It's so
Um,
rewarding.
It
Yeah.
is. I agree. Yeah, I live for that too. So, what is one practical system or daily habit that you teach for people to build mental resilience against manipulation?
One daily habit, I would say the uh, it's not really a habit. Less is more. So hit the pause button. When you talk too much, that is an invitation and provides incredible fodder for the manipulator to manipulate you. So
Mm,
just pause. That was a 3-second pause. Get your thoughts together and say it succinctly.
mm,
And always, always, you with a manipulator is do not be forced into agreeing to something with a sense of urgency. They like to use that. They also like to hit you up to agree to things when you're distracted. So
mm.
don't be afraid to say later, I'll think about it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
make that decision right now.
Yeah. So pause and then less is more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of what one of the things that I would come up with as I was practicing these sentences in the mirror is what is the most efficient way that I can say this so that there isn't any backfiring happening, right? There isn't any questioning. Like this is the fact. This is how I can say it. So there is no retaliation on this, right? It's a skill that I learned from that experience with that one person, right? And it's so valuable for me now because I feel like I am able to then efficiently put my words into sentences and express what I'm really trying to say.
Well,
Right.
that is the gift of the manipulator, too. I mean,
Yeah.
I really got so far through the other side. I thought I value those experiences because I could never learn what I learned without going through the fire like that.
Yeah.
And it can't
Yeah.
be taken from me.
Yeah.
It
And
just
it's
can't.
so it's so visceral now for you, right? It's like you've had to live it, you've had to embody it, you've had to teach it. And so you know exactly how to put yourself in the shoes of the manipulator and the person being manipulated.
True. My backup plan, if all else fails, I'm going to be a cult leader because I know too much.
You know too much. Well, let's hope you never need that backup plan.
I don't think so. I
Yeah, but
don't
it
think
makes
I
for
don't
good
think
comedy
morally I could
material.
do it, but if apocalypse comes, maybe, and I got to feed
Maybe.
people.
Yeah. At least you can take them to the bright side, hopefully, not the dark side. Yeah, if the world comes to an end, we'll come calling to you.
Okay, awesome.
I love it. I love it. So, one of the things that I also wanted to ask you about is that you have brilliant distinction between fear and intuition, right? So, how can somebody who's listening, who is full of fear, begin to trust that intuition, that inner wisdom, and this is to me like the most
That's
important distinction that we need to make.
Oh my gosh, it's so true, and it's so hard because they get very conflated.
Mm,
I think the breath helps a lot. The diaphragmatic breath. There's a 3-minute YouTube video, but if you don't know the diaphragmatic breath, and you really need to know this breath, because in one breath you regain control
mm,
out of the amygdala, the fight or flight, back to the frontal cortex where you can think straight. So you've got to be breathing. And
okay.
let me tell you, when you're choking with sobs, you're not breathing at
Mm,
all. So if you find yourself holding your breath, you're already going to fail. You can't. You've got to breathe.
okay.
And then that will help you. Even one breath and the pause will help you to get, once you're back in that frontal cortex, to go, what am I so afraid of?
Mm,
If you just ask yourself that question, I feel like, and I know I don't want to get too woo woo, but I do want to get too woo woo. Your higher self will answer the question, your guides, whatever it is. You ask yourself an open ended question. What am I so afraid of?
yeah.
It's going to pop up rejection. Is it a bad thing if I'm rejected by this person who's completely disrespecting me?
Mm.
Maybe not. You can start to get a little bit of logic in there.
There's so many tapes that play in our minds, right? As we're dealing with situations like this. So you're saying
Yeah.
pause, breathe, and then ask the right question, right? And
Yeah.
this is something I say a lot in my coaching as well. Ask the right question. Don't ask, like, how can I leave my job and get into a new business? Ask, what is holding me back from leaving my job?
Yes.
That's
Right.
the right question. What is the
Right.
fear? What is the bottom line core belief that is stopping you from quitting or starting a business on the side or something like that? And that's just an example that I used with someone recently, so it's top of mind. But no matter
Well,
what decision you're making, right? Whether it's someone, because sometimes we're manipulating our own minds, right? With the stories and the conditioning that we've been through.
totally. Well, that's what happens. With
Yeah.
a manipulator, they end up occupying all the real estate in your brain. You end up filtering every action, everything through how they're going to feel about it. That's how they take complete control of your brain.
Yeah.
Going back to that example of teenage years, um, I must have asked myself that kind of question because I remember deciding to be fearless at some point. I
Mm,
remember saying, what's the worst thing my mother can do to me? She can hate me. She can publicly humiliate me. She can call me names. And I was like, can she hit me? Because she didn't really do that. She tried one time, but she went to slap me and I grabbed her wrist. But I
mm,
thought, no, because if she hits me, I will call DSS and tell them she's physically abusing me because I knew about that.
yeah.
So I thought, well, she can't physically hurt me. So what am I worried about?
Mm,
Her embarrassing me? No, because I'm just not going to be embarrassed because I so knew she was just trying to control me and I did not want to be controlled. And then
yeah.
I felt the strength and the power rise up in me and I became her worst nightmare because I
Mm,
refused to comply.
yeah. Yeah.
And it was great for me because I got a car. I put myself through college. I
Wow.
went and lived with my boyfriend's parents for my senior year. They let me come and live with them. And I got out and I got away.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out also that, while we are talking about people who are serious manipulators, they are also acting out of a place of hurt, right? Somewhere along the
Yeah.
way, they have,
Absolutely, they are.
yeah,
They
yeah,
are. And they
yeah,
have had terrible things happen to put them into that way of engaging with the world. But
yeah,
that is not your problem.
yeah,
Because number one, each one of us, we are, this is a full-time job. I'm motioning to myself right now. This is a full-time job. I'm 100% responsible for my thoughts, words, and actions. I'm also responsible for my health and joy and productivity.
yeah,
Okay, that's a full-time job. So, yes, while you can say something terrible happened and that made them be that way, and they'll never know what they don't know. They'll never know real human connection because they don't know how to not manipulate.
yeah,
It's not your problem.
yeah,
It's up to them, and you just
yeah.
cannot save them. They will pull you down.
True. Yeah. And that is your lesson, right? To learn
Oh, that was a tough
how to,
one with
yeah,
my own mother. It's a tough
yeah.
one.
It's
It
a tough
took
one.
50
Yeah.
years for me to finally give up.
How many?
50 years. 50, 50. I'm 60 now.
Wow.
It
Wow.
literally took me 50 years to give up on
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one person, your parents are the two people that you seek the most approval from. And
Yeah.
so if they're trying to manipulate you, you're probably just thinking it's something I need to just gain more approval from them for. And you keep doing that and keep doing that until you
Over and
realize
over
you
and
can't.
over.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore. And
Yeah.
you have to honor your own authenticity and your own truth, right? And I'm so glad that you were
Yeah.
able to break free. It's not easy, right?
It's
Um,
not easy, but it really isn't. And it's almost like grieving somebody who's still alive, which is
yeah,
weird.
it's
You
so
know, it
weird.
would be easier if she had died because society understands that.
Yeah,
Society, that makes sense. That's neat. It's quite neat and tidy. I hate to say it that way, but it compared to having a living person who you cannot engage with in any
yeah,
kind of depth, any kind of vulnerable way. Nobody understands that. Their mother died. Like, what do you mean you don't speak to your mother? And she's still
yeah,
alive? And then it's
yeah.
like, well, what's wrong with you? You must be a terrible person. You have to deal with all of that. So
Mm. Yeah,
it's
there's a
very
lot of
complex,
judgment. Yeah,
very hard, very
yeah,
hard.
yeah. So your guiding principle is freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose, right?
That's Janis Joplin who said that.
Yes. Okay.
I want to give
Yeah,
her proper credit.
absolutely. Yeah, but that is something that you use as well.
Yeah.
So for someone who's listening, who's terrified of loss, what is the one command that you can give them to break free from that fear?
Well, it goes full circle back to your word choice.
Mm.
Is it loss or is it a new beginning?
I love that.
And it really is, if it's a loss, it really is a new beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's also reminding yourself, like you were talking about the cost. What is the cost of staying in it, right?
Yes.
Versus fighting through it and moving forward. Even if it's unknown, even if it's scary, even if it's, filled
My
with
favorite
fear.
words, even though,
Mm, love
even
it.
though I'm afraid, I'm going to say this.
Yes. Yes. And I think that, from a spiritual perspective, I know that every time you share your authenticity with somebody out loud, the universe just comes in and scoops you up and saves you a little bit and raises your
It's so
energy.
true.
Right. And
It's
every time you have
so
that,
true.
yeah, every time you have that energetic shift to go upwards, even a tiny bit, I feel like even the person listening has a different understanding of what you're saying because they haven't seen you own your power. Right. And when you do own your power and you speak your truth, people are forced to just be like, whoa, what was that?
It's a different vibration.
Yeah.
And when I was going through the worst of this, I had a dream where I was falling. You know, the dreams when you're falling are the worst. And
Mm.
but I was falling through black space.
Wow.
And then these hands came in, giant hands came in like this together, cupped, and caught me. And I
Oh,
woke up. But
I
it
love
was one of those visceral dreams. It was one of those dreams like, I'm never going to forget this. And to me, that was a sign that jump,
Yeah.
you're going to be caught.
I love
And
it.
you will, everybody will. You will be caught. You don't, people want control. They want to know. They don't like unknown. They want to know Well, how? I did it. I did it when I pulled the Band-Aid off. I said, how am I ever going to get? I would walk by a homeless guy in the street laying in his own,
Mm,
excrement. And I'd go, that guy has more money than I do. That
wow.
guy is better off than I am because I'm so buried in debt.
Wow.
That guy has
Yeah.
more freedom than I do. That's how
Yeah.
I'm looking at somebody, you know, and I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And that's a perspective, right? That's all that is. It's a
Yeah.
perspective that you held at the moment. And then there's a
Yeah.
whole other perspective that can be, well, even though I am in debt, even though I am struggling, even though I have no idea how it's going to work out, there is a way and I'm going to find it. Right.
And nothing is more, what's the word I want? Nothing is more satisfying to yourself than proving to yourself that you can trust yourself.
Mm,
I mean, look at all the stories. We don't need more examples. Wizard of Oz.
yep.
They faced their fear. They threw the bucket of water on the witch.
Yeah.
She went. All of that was in their mind and it went away.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so many stories that support this, but each person has their own test, unique test
Yeah.
and trial and tribulation. And they also have free will, so they can choose to, even though I'm afraid I'm going to do it anyway, I'm going to do the right thing for
Yeah.
me. Or they cannot do that. They get to do that and they can continue complying. And well, that's its own cost. But
Yeah.
I feel like, they talk about informed consent. That's
Hmm.
kind of what I'm doing is saying you need to know what that cost is. And
Yeah.
you also need to know what the potential prize is. If you can
Yeah.
go through that dark forest and get to the meadow where the butterflies and the beautiful flowers are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we all know deep down what we want, right? It's just finding the courage or finding someone to help you find the courage is what's needed. Right.
Yep. You
And
still
that
have to do it. Even
is,
if you have a good coach like you or me,
yeah,
you still have to do it.
we're just going to facilitate
Can't do
the
it for
thought
you.
process. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yep.
agree totally. 100%. But the question that I always ask my clients is, okay, do you want to stay here or do you want to move forward or do you want to break free of this? Right. And I can't answer that for you. Like
Mhm.
you have to know the answer to that. And if you do decide that you want to move forward, I can help you see some of the tools that are already in your life. Right. And it sounds like that's what you're doing as well, is you're teaching them the communication skills and the ability to see the cost of staying there. And that whole, part of the informed consent is informing them
Yeah.
of what is going on.
And
So
also, you do this too. I'm sure you break it down to micro
yeah.
steps for them. So I've operationalized the stuff I had to learn the hard way.
Mhm.
I don't, it's still going to be hard, but it can be micro step hard instead of, you know, being
Yeah.
embarrassed in front of the entire junior high school.
Yeah. You don't have to climb the whole mountain today, right?
You're right. Exactly.
Let's take it one step at a time. What's the
Yeah.
first part of the trek that we're going to do together? Yes, I love that. I love that. I love your approach. I love everything you're sharing, and I appreciate you sharing so
Oh, thank you.
openly and so candidly, because I know that when we share true stories is when we not only free ourselves, but we also help others. So
Absolutely. That's what
yeah,
it's all about.
I love it. Thank you, Robin. This has been amazing. If anyone wants to learn more about you or connect with you further, what is the best way that they can find you in this big web of world that
Okay,
we have?
so outwitinrealtime.com is where the manipulation stuff is. You
Okay.
can email me at outwitbook@gmail.com.
Okay.
And if you look up Outwitting the Manipulator, you'll find the book and the podcast as well. So it's on
Beautiful.
Apple and everywhere. And that's how I'm forgetting how I found you. I think it was through Innovation Women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Innovation Women. And
wonderful.
I actually just met Bobby this weekend, last Friday. So in New York,
Oh, that's
which,
nice. I've
yeah.
known her for 20 years. So we
Oh,
should give
wow.
them a plug, innovationwomen.com. If
Yes.
you're a female author, speaker, it's a wonderful, wonderful group.
Yeah. And it's been fun, so fun being a part of that. And I got to see her in real life for the first
Oh,
time
yeah.
on Friday. And I was like, you're real.
Oh, that's fun. Well, I'm not that far from you. You're in New York. I'm in Boston. So,
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll see each other soon sometime. But
Yeah.
I just want to thank you so much again for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, for opening up and inspiring my audience. And we'll look forward to seeing you in real life someday. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for this opportunity.
Of course.